Hi, guys, and welcome to Brewing E-commerce. And this is quite a special episode for multiple reasons. Firstly, it's my first one for the year 2025. Um, I'm doing it with two fabulous ladies. We're going to talk about it. And something most important is I was waiting to do this because I wanted to do it for a special reason, which really means, and I think 2025 should be more about healthy living. And one of the most crazy things which is happening in the economy is people eating junk, and it impacts your health and mental and all the other things. So that's why I chose two of the best women possible to come and tell me and everyone else about how do we feed smart. Welcome, Sonali and Reecha.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, guys, I've been fortunate enough to know you both. We work together, we learn together, etc. And I know the kind of products that you guys have in the market. And I also understand that it's not just possible to create what you're doing just straight away, right? So, I'd love to get a little bit a sense of both of your individual journeys and how this all conspired in the universe to come up with something as cool as what you guys are doing now.
Yeah, sure. I'll start and then you as well. So I've spent about 15 years, and thank you for having us. So I've been in F&B now for about 15 years. Started with Delhi born, still Sri Lanka, went to Warwick University. Always very much always into food is always been special. Let's put it. It's been a volatile journey since the beginning of my teenage years. And then I came back, and then I got into F&B, and I started my F&B career with Chef Ritu at Tiva Restaurants. So anyone who lives in Delhi NCR, she's one of the first ones to launch traditional Italian food in India. So I spent 5 to 6 years under her mentorship in operations, front of house. I was a typical 20-year-old who said, "Oh, you know what? It's so cool to work in a restaurant. Let's figure it out and let's see what it's about." I had absolutely no idea as to the depth and the vastness of working in a restaurant is can be your worst nightmare, basically. But I sailed through. I think I like the vibe. I like the hecticness. So I worked, with her, and then I moved on to scale a cloud kitchen brand called Insta Pizza, which is now formally known as Galaxy Pizza on Swiggy. Built that team from scratch, took it to about 20 CRA. But again, I had a very strong inclination towards the healthier life, and pizza didn't fit into that category. And COVID happened, that's a change. I also got pregnant. So I said, okay, fine, I'm exiting this business and I will now be ready to start my own business. I also come from a Marwari Kanya background. So business was always an eventuality for me. Um, Plus, when he said, my daughter was born and I was in a mindset to start my own business, went through the journey of feeding, sort of getting her into solid foods and realized that there's not much, in terms of options, literature, education. Kids should start their journey in India. So that's where the inception of idea happened. It took about 8 to 9 months for me to build out the website. And then launched in August 2022, with certain products. Started it off more of a staple, like flowers and tea, and then realized that that's really not what parents are looking for. A lot of consumer insight. We slowly pivoted within 4 or 5 months into more indulgent categories like ketchup. Ketchup has done well, it has picked up great feedback. Right? So then we started iterating and making more products in the more indulgent categories. So everything that kids love to eat, just healthier. So ketchup, chocolate, lollipops, things like that. Um, and about, mid 2023, I got this email from Reecha, long email on LinkedIn and on email, right? And she's had a similar journey, which she'll tell you about. And I said, let's talk. Yeah, I mean, I was again in the mindset of wanting to onboard a co-founder, and I liked what she wrote, and I said, let's talk. I have no idea what this could do. And then we sort of, it just so happened that we aligned in terms of values, complementing skills, shared vision, and she'll complete the story for you.
Yeah, thanks, Sonali. So yeah, so similar background in terms of I've spent most of my time in Delhi. I originally come from an army background. My dad was in the army, so initially we moved around a bit, and then eventually settled in Delhi. Done my schooling from Delhi, then graduation, and then eventually my MBA from Pune Symbiosis. Then I had a pretty conventional 10-year long corporate career, very MBA-esque, I would say. Sales, revenue, marketing, most of that for most part of it. Then around the time that I also became a mom, and after I started my kids' solids journey, right? That's when so both Sonali and I have always been into health and nutrition for ourselves, right? Very health conscious, work out every day till date, been doing it for 10, 15 years, very active, teenagers, kids, all of that, right?
Sorry, I'm in the wrong podcast. And working out every day is not me. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
No, so so that's what most of our life was like. So naturally for us, when we had our kids, it was a natural move to get them into all of that as well and start them off with a strong foundation. And that starts with when they start eating solid food, right? So when I started doing that, I did a lot of research into, what should I be feeding him, how much, and what nutrients should he be getting more, and all of that. So while I was doing that, I was also looking to pivot in my career, and I thought that it would be interesting to, and now this is why I wrote to Sonali. I was looking for companies in India who were building in this space. Apart from, I guess back then it was only Slurp who was doing stuff for young kids, clean stuff. So then I thought that, okay, there are not many options. And what if I'd want to give something more than cereals, right? Mostly they were known for cereals, and they've done a really, really good job building that brand. But I want to know if there are other brands doing other stuff. And that's when I came across what Sonali was building at FeedSmart. She'd been doing it for over a year, I think, or less than a year, I think, when we met. So June of last year is when we met, and it's been about, no, sorry, June of 2023, 2025. So so yeah, almost 16, 17 months of doing this together. And then I said, very interesting what you're doing, and let's talk, and I want to know how can I help out. I did not have co-founder in my mind because I was not looking to take that kind of risk. I was like, yeah, I've always been in a job. I mean, sure, it would be great to have my own thing, but hello, I have a 9-month old. No way I can take on entrepreneurship right now. But then I thought, okay, you know what, this is an interesting opportunity, because if you really want to make an impact, you have to take risks. It cannot unfortunately happen in a stable environment where you just do what's required and just do that much. So yeah, that's how we started doing this together. Like I said, it's been 16, 17 months of us doing this together. FeedSmart is now almost 2.5 years old. We are still fairly young. We're still finding our footing. But one thing we are very, very clear about is why we are doing this. And I think every time that we have to rethink a certain decision regarding the business, we always go back to why and what we want to impact. And that's always going to be better future for kids, better nutrition, better foundation, and just always, always do what's best for the kids. I mean, we wouldn't make anything that we wouldn't be proud to feed our own kids. That's always the thesis.
Excellent. I think so many founders, entrepreneurs I've spoken to, there's always that identifying a gap in the market, and then they try to create a product around it, right? You were able to see that in your own house
Yeah.
on trying to do how we can do the best. So Richa, your son should be about 2 years old now,
No, he's going to turn 3 in April.
1, 3, and Sonali,
In
how old
April.
is your daughter?
Oh,
4.
yeah.
Okay. So again, I also wanted to understand the age group, right? Because that's how it is. And uh, funny enough, right? Just today morning, my daughter woke up. She was eating cereal and like breakfast, and she eats the worst tasting
Oh, God.
breakfast available in the UK.
Okay.
Hmm.
Worst.
We
It's
ship
called Vita.
internationally, FYI.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's called Vita Bix,
Oh,
and it's like it has no sugar, it has no no preservative, nothing, just like a block of
yeah.
uh, like a and funny enough, I know a lot of my friends' kids. They eat different things, right? So and when we go to their houses and stuff like that, and then they're like, "Do I want to give you this?" And she's like, "No, no, I want to eat this."
Yeah.
And they're like, "How come is she eating this?" I'm like, "Because she's never eaten anything else."
Yeah. No, it's amazing that
Correct.
you
So,
managed to. How old
You-
is she now?
so she's 7, I know it's going to change, right? Which is
No, but
as they
if
get
you build the
exposed to it.
foundation till 7,
Yeah,
it's there
I
for
was
life.
going to say that if she's sticking to it till she's 7, then I think you're good.
She's not going
And
to be
that,
able to digest the other stuff that
yeah,
easily. She'll try it, but
and
it's not going to stick around.
that's where I was coming at, right? And my wife, I think, is more particular
Yeah.
about this than me in that way, right? So we've been living outside India for about 15, 17 years and stuff like that. And there's this one habit
Mm.
that is so amazing that we traditional Indians can't do it. Like if we feel hungry,
Mm.
the first thing will be to go and pick up a namkeen,
Right.
go and pick up a samosa or whatever, right? And when I see people with very good regime, they're like, okay, let me eat a banana,
Mm.
let me go and eat an apple, things like that, right? And that has such a lasting impact in lives throughout.
Mm.
And my question coming back to you guys is, you're fighting against a very, very difficult ICP in a market that comes traditionally with a very different mindset.
Yeah.
And trying to change mindset takes everything possible and more, right? So, how does that get fed into the entire ethos of your company?
God, it's tough. There's absolutely no doubt to say that it's an uphill climb, you know. And this is a constant conversation between Rich and I. So we communicate on voice notes, right? Because moms like to have as much as freedom over their time. So we don't get on calls that much. It's all voice notes. But this is, I would say, there's a constant communication. And what is about, we are right now in the push category. And we are 100% sure that we'll get into the pull category. But that time to develop ourselves, to develop the product, to develop the consumer when it becomes a full product. Right? What all do we need to do? How much do we need to keep pushing? How do we keep pushing? It's the answer is not just one. But there is change. There is awareness. Right? There are people who are getting into it. There are parents who are conscious about what they feed their kids, even more so than what they feed their own themselves. So we're riding on that. Even if the subset is small, we know it's going to grow. It's going to grow with time.
Yeah, also, I think like what needs to happen is that it's easier for kids whose parents are already into healthy eating, right? I think if parents really want to give their kids a better nutritional foundation, they need to start by cleaning up the pantry, which means the entire family needs to eat
Yeah,
healthy.
it's
It
very
can't
important.
happen, yeah, it can't happen that you have a separate meal for the kid for multiple years. It can't, I mean, maybe for the first 6 months when they're on semi solids, but
Right.
if parents genuinely want to have kids who are nutritionally sound, who grow up with a strong nutritional foundation, they need to make an effort within their own lifestyle as well, because kids mostly learn more from watching than from being told.
That's my favorite line all time, which I completely
Right.
agree with you. Yeah, yeah.
So I think good thing in India now is that that's happening. Adults are also wanting to change their own lifestyle, especially after COVID. I think people realize how bad our immunity is, how one pandemic can just wipe out an entire generation if you're not taking care of yourself. It is a very, very harsh reality, but that did happen. A lot of people were scared for their parents because our older generation were more susceptible to that virus, even kids. So I think now that's changing after COVID. I think Indians are becoming more health conscious, and our hope is that as parents become more health conscious, they will make better choices for their kids too. And the ones who are not able to do it for themselves, they're definitely changing for their kids. I think they're making better choices for their kids. But it is definitely a fight against, like you said, rightly said, right? There are generations of habit
Same
of
DNA
reaching,
of eating.
yeah, reaching out for the munchies, and all
Yes.
our festivals are just about mithai, so much mithai and so much carbs.
But I think that's
So
why us in the indulgent category has worked better than building in a staples category. You
Agree.
know, that
Yeah,
is because we don't believe that you can't give your kids ketchup and chocolate and things like that, right? But just give a healthier, better for you version. And I think that, both Rich and I are very much like, protein as a macronutrient, and India being very deficit in that. You would know this. It's talk of most health food companies
yeah.
now, right? and how to bring that into kids' food, into products that they enjoy. So
So this kind of leads me to my next question, right? I think, right, you said your category is indulgent food, right? And chocolate is like staple. I think there'll rarely be kids who will not eat chocolate
yeah,
in some or the other form. How do you guys go about doing your entire, productization to really figure out that, okay, this is the product and I need to make it more cleaner? Try to remove. What's that thought process? Because that's very exciting and intriguing for
yeah.
people like us.
Just to go supermarket and see what kids pick up, and then literally, our entire product map for the 2 years is actually taking the worst of what kids like to eat and cleaning it up and giving them healthier, cleaner version to that. Right? Start with ketchup, then we went to jam, right? Then we sort of lollipops. Right? I mean, even though we did it in a chocolate form, we have it in a candy form. It's almost impossible to do, you know. Next, we'll go into and we're not category specific per se, even though we have taken it a bit slow and we built out our spreads, micro spreads. That's what we was most for. But eventually, it's going to be building that brand for kids. So it's going to be into, let's say, it will get into chips category, go into a biscuits category, go into categories, right? But the
Nice.
best way to actually do it is, and being a product person, I think launching or having products launch is never an issue. We just that is actually the what I need to control as a company, because you know launching products is not a solution. Sometimes it's great, but so we've developed the products based on what kids enjoy, and you get that is easy, Oreo biscuits and for cereals, for chips, all of this stuff, right? You take the worst of the category, you make that a basic sample, right? That you want to clean up. You take out all the ingredients, then you put in some ingredients, and then you go back and forth with it with R&D. There's certain categories that you can't do it in, right? But
Yeah.
there are certain products that you can.
So you guys are doing this entire R&D also by yourself and trying to figure this entire process
So
and stuff. So
yes and no. We have a nutritionist and someone who does R&D in terms of conceptualization, but the actual physical R&D is done with our manufacturers. They have a full
sure.
R&D. We've been working with them since pre-revenue, so we have a great
Okay.
working. So they've
Perfect.
developed most of our products.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Um. So we have a mission.
Hmm.
We have a product.
Hmm.
We have an ICP.
Yeah.
Right. Uh, Today, when I would say the entire commerce, and I don't mean e-commerce right now, I don't mean physical commerce because it's so convoluted and it's so distributed.
Mm-hmm.
Today, you read about FeedSmart on an Instagram ad, hear about it from your neighbor,
Mm-hmm.
and then finally find it on a Shopify store
Mm-hmm.
to order it on a WhatsApp.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
That's the kind of journey which is every day. What has what did you guys start with, and what is working for you right now?
Okay, you want to take this
What
Because
we
I'm very sure what you thought it will work has
Of course,
evolved a lot.
yeah.
That's
It's
why I want to understand what you thought and what it is right now, because that goes for everyone else, including me. So yeah.
I think when you're sitting at home with your kid thinking that, wow, what a huge problem I've cracked, what a huge gap. I just need the products and people will line up.
Yeah.
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 Because, of course, it's a problem. Uh, I think the biggest challenge, and coincidentally, Sonali and I were just discussing this right before this
Okay.
podcast for different reasons. The biggest challenge is, like you said, I think that we are bombarded with content, products, brands. There is so much noise,
Mhm.
even from brands that are not clean, claiming to be clean.
Yeah.
It is so hard for a consumer on a social platform trying to make a decision when all of this content is being thrown at him or her, right?
Yeah.
Um, and there are so many channels now to buy from. Think
Yeah.
30 years ago, 20 years ago, a mom would go to a nearby departmental store and pick up what was available. Um, Now a mom has five resources that she refers to before she buys for her kid, right? She's going on Instagram, she's talking to her friends on WhatsApp, then she's going to a nearby departmental store also maybe, then she's checking out what's available on quick commerce. It is so hard to acquire a new customer and then to retain them. It is so hard.
100%.
And I can tell you for a fact that that's why most brands today are burning a lot of money because it's just so hard,
Yeah.
right? It's if you look at the recent past, there hasn't been a big um, exit of a new age food brand in the recent past. I guess Yoga Bar was the last one, but that brand has been built over almost a decade. Like they started building in 2009. It took them almost 10 years to build this brand, and they started offline. They started in the era of departmental stores, by the way, because they started offline. In today's day and age, it's very easy to start a business. See, all you need is a website, right? And you need an Instagram page. So there are a lot of brands that are popping up, right? So to cut through that noise, to really stick with the audience, to have them keep coming back to you, you need to be also available on all of these channels. And it's so expensive for a new brand, for a bootstrap brand like us.
Totally.
It's so hard to be available everywhere. So honestly, it's the multiple layers. When you start off, you feel like all you need is a good product, you need a website, and people will line up. And then you realize there's so many layers to this.
Mm.
It starts from awareness, it starts from education, it starts, and then it goes into getting the customer to you, converting them, retaining them. So I think it's
You don't even
exceptionally
see where you get them from. Right? Um, I acquired this customer from this channel. It's not possible either. So, yeah.
Yeah.
and Amazon doesn't give you that data that you can drag
Yeah.
back that customer and tell them to come back to your website.
Yeah.
So it's just, I mean, it's funny because in today's day and age, everything is about data, and there's so much data available, and yet you don't have enough to actually make
Zero.
any decision.
It's zero.
So much of your traffic and your conversion is paid that you don't even know that. Okay, would they be still be coming if I wasn't doing ads? Can
Yeah.
I reduce my budget on ads? Can I spend less? Can
Yeah.
I save more? How do I turn profitable? So there's so many questions, I think. So yeah, so I guess that's where we were 2 years ago, and now we're learning that it's going to be a slow journey, I think. And see, I think we're also very hard on ourselves because we hear of stories in the media where someone started a brand in August 2019, got funded in December 2019, built a 100 crore brand by the next year, and then 3 years later they're at a 500 crore valuation. We forget that most legacies or most big brands are built over decades, right? We are now in this era of startups and funding, so we think that's the only way for a business to be built, and we are all in a hurry, right? That, oh my god, 3 years have passed, I've not reached my 100 crore valuation. So I think yeah, because I keep reminding myself this is not a race to a certain destination, who gets there the fastest, right? It's really about how you can build a brand, and brand building cannot happen in 1 year. Sorry, not in this kind of environment where there's so much content and noise happening.
I used
It'll
to,
happen slowly and gradually.
when I started, I only had one mission launch. And honestly, when I remember, and very specifically when the website went live and all the calls, I said, now? I literally at that moment, like, okay, now what? I said, shit, I need to actually get sales. My first step was to go into influencers because as a mom, I was following. So I
Yeah,
started
but that's a
sales
very
through them.
good approach.
Yeah.
But that's a very good approach because a lot of people I know,
Uh,
and I also was in that rut at some point of time, that we need to do things perfectly, but there's nothing perfect in it,
no, it's an illusion.
right? Unless you launch, you will never learn. So even if it's like 1% increment,
Yeah.
just try and do that, right?
Founders especially can't run after perfection because they just don't have the luxury of that amount of time, right? You have 10 things to be done in a day.
Yeah,
If you set out to make one thing perfect, that's all you'll achieve in a day, and then
exactly.
you realize, oh, the other 9 things have slipped through the cracks.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Uh, but Richa, I want to also, firstly, I'm very glad to hear this that I always believe that money and all the valuations and stuff is the byproduct of the work that you do.
Mm.
Right? If you do something good, which is solve some problems, things will come to you this way, that way, etc. That's a different story. So it's very refreshing to hear people think in similar lines. Um,
I mean,
but
we would mind a 100 crore valuation, but nobody's giving it to us. So we have to tell ourselves that, listen, slow and steady is also fine.
which is which is which is like
Yes.
on the brand building part, somebody I just read somewhere that Haldiram's valuation and some other company's valuation took happened in so many other, but that's just the brand building part of it, right? So
But how many years they've had?
Yeah,
exactly,
Haldiram has been around for, I think, more than 50 years.
Yeah,
So
it's just not
yeah,
possible
right.
to
So,
well earned.
compress that.
but also if you flip the switch in that way, that a lot of brands that you see have made a lot of money in the past few years are products but not brands.
Hmm.
Some of them work very well, fine. Most of them have not because they tried to वो चेपने की कोशिश kind of a thing, right? Try to just sell you something, and they had a very nice curve, went up, and then started going down. And there are many big numbers and names that you can think of, which leaves a very bad taste in the mouth of the consumers because they trust you, and then they get bitten, and then they like leave you shy for the other thing, etc. So hopefully people are watching. Hopefully they you guys are not like that. Your products are different, and that's how we're building,
I
so which
think
is amazing.
just, like we're very much in touch with our customers. I mean, like if we have a customer care email, for example, right? Then we've also put in a little note, guys, if you're not able to get in touch for just any reason, just drop an email to founders. That's joint email to us. And we reply. We're very speedy in our responses. It's the least you can do, right? In the age of communication, get a lot of emails from customers, and they're also surprised to hear from us so fast.
Nice.
Right? So these things matter, and
Yeah.
you've got to keep that up. And I don't think that, no matter how big you get, at least ability for people to connect with you, right? And to know who's behind the brand is very important. And with food, it's extremely. And then with kids on top of it, too, it's
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
It's a no-brainer. But I know as my experience with a lot of brands, when I identify, fine, I call and I've had some issues and bought something, I send an email or something. I don't get responses. And you think that, my God, look at the content they're creating, what a brand they have, the founders writing all
Yeah.
around it, and then it's been a week, 2, 3 years, no response. It's like, that's really odd, because it goes against the grain.
Yeah.
So these are small things that you can even do to test out the brand. I mean, just say that, listen, guys, can you put me back to some feedback on the product?
Yeah.
My team will 100% just send it to us and we call the person. No questions asked. So that
That's
also, I
amazing.
think, makes a big difference when you're building consumer brands.
Yeah.
Because then I know
Yeah.
that once I spoke to this customer, once I spoke to her, she's 99% doing the second
Mm.
mail us and tell us. These are building because that's what they want. And that's what we also want.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. Um, one more thoughts, one bunch of your nuggets I would like is, um, I think there are so many factors that is making entrepreneurship very cool in India, right? Everybody wants to do it, which is amazing. But I also, being in the shoes myself, know it's freaking hard.
Yes.
Right? I always say this to myself that अगर पता होता इतना hard होता तो maybe I would have thought 10 times more that kind of doing it. Um, and given you guys are in a very large category, which is consumed by everybody, but still there are players, small players, big players, etc. How has your journey been on the fundraise side, on the traction side, and any learnings from that? If you guys want to share like a best practice for somebody starting out new.
I literally, I told her that this. a series on LinkedIn on brands sub 500, sorry, 5 CR raising their
Right.
first round.
Okay.
Uh, it it is nothing. I think building the business is easy, at least for us. You know,
Yeah. And you guys have done it. So yeah.
I mean, we've
Yeah.
done it, yes, and we're on the treadmill now. It's taken us about a year and a half. First when I started with I had a pool of capital that I got from my exit from my previous company, and it was 50 lakhs. I said, oh, it's a lot of money. I can create a crazy brand with this.
Yeah.
Boom, 6 months. You're like, oh my god, what just happened?
Sure.
And then. Uh, and then obviously there was revenue, the slow grade, everything. And then I started talking to friends and family, and then you raise on like founder ability, right?
Sure.
And then
Yeah.
luckily, and that's I've always believed in the power of network, right? It is the one advice that I give any founder is build your network activity even before you become a founder, you know,
Yeah.
and that means
Yeah.
just staying in touch, getting out there, making connections because you don't know where they're coming from. The most I mean, craziest people from the most random events of my life, have come in, found on LinkedIn or said, oh, we started, this is great, we don't provide small check sizes, not that someone's come and said, here, take up a food. No. But they've sort of seen you in your element because they've seen you in the restaurant business or something, they've
Yeah.
seen the grit and they're like, yeah, sure, I think you do something great, go for it. And that's how we
Yeah.
started. We raised through, and then you also have to be very sure that who you put on your capital. This is the second thing we will say. Who you put
Yeah.
on your capital is very important because everyone has to sign everything. It's an operating, um, it's an operating process, right? Like we raised, let's say we just closed our VC down, but you have to get a document, the SHA signed by everyone. It's such a lengthy process, right? If someone
Mm.
decides, I don't want to sign this,
Yeah. You're
what do you
gone.
do?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that connection of who the person is, you also have to evaluate, right? All these things become important when you start this fundraiser. I mean, it's there's so many learnings. I honestly will write about it in LinkedIn as a
You should.
series, because I never thought, um, I just didn't think, what it would be when you start. I think Reecha and I we have reached out at least 80 to 100 micro VCs.
Mm.
You can say 70% have not even responded. 30% responded, and most of them said that okay, when you hit 50 lakhs per month, get that. That's your basic sum minimum for a consumer brand.
Yeah. Okay. Mm.
I said, yeah, but guys, how do you hit 50 lakhs? It's a chicken and egg situation, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we stuck to angels, and of course, just through talking to people, angels, getting word out, and we finally, closed it. But it's it's a whole different. It's a whole different. I don't know if
Okay.
that's possible in a consumer brand.
Yeah. 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 Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Reaching more people. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Try and yeah, of course.
Also,
Yeah, but
family
let me
really
tell
does
you.
matter,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
but also right, like we building a very different kind of business than you guys are.
yes.
Um, it's it never gets easy, right? It's like it was very passion
Yeah.
driven, very problem statement driven as well in that respect. But because it's a AI kind of thing, we had to put a lot of money and a lot of infrastructure and stuff like that. Um, but again, that's a topic where I don't know how many podcasts would get covered. But
We love
uh,
it, right? At the end of
no,
the day, the thing is,
yeah,
I mean, I really like, I enjoy work, I enjoy business, right? So of course, it's been crazy, and I honestly think, and the third point that I would definitely say is that have a co-founder. Believe me, if I
yes,
was alone on this journey, I honestly don't think I would.
yeah,
I don't know if I would have
that
even
gold
this
nugget.
even this far. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Very
You guys are kind of stealing my last question
true.
there, just in the interest of time. But I want to ask two different questions from both of you because I know both of you manage different aspects of the business as well, which is again a very very important skill
Yeah.
in a co-founder setup, right? So, Sonali, if you had to start a new food brand in the year 2025,
Mm.
and now with all the experience that you have, what do you recommend your top three priorities will be? How should I go about the top three things? That's it.
Okay, definitely one is, of course, like we just said, right? Um, get someone with you on the journey, right?
Sure. Hmm.
It makes a big difference. If you can get someone with complementary skills, right? Go for it. Um, if you have the bandwidth and the co-founder and the capital to actually completely own your back end, yeah, right? Do it. It's a longer and harder journey, right? You're climbing even a steeper mountain. But if there are two
Yeah.
of you or three of you, and again, you've got the capital, to
Yeah.
factory to consume. You know,
Okay.
I feel that it is something that it comes in and plays a big part at a later stage of your journey, right? Um, and the third thing I think is don't focus so much on, like I focused a lot in the beginning on what is my brand name, what are the colors, this part of it, right? And I spent a
Mm.
lot of time and money on it, only to realize
Okay.
that you know, that's just the top layer, because
Mm.
the rest of it, because as you start working and iterating, you pivot your business, you pivot your product, you pivot your communication. We are still struggling, and we've gone through maybe hundreds of taglines for Be Smart. It's
Mm.
not possible to have it until you actually stepped in and got your feet up.
Mm.
And it's probably never going to be. It might not be what you start. As long as you have, that spark that you find. This is why I'm doing it. Your why is sort of clear. The rest of it unfolds in the process of building your business. I went through that. Okay, नहीं नाम क्या होना चाहिए, colors, tagline, brand, this whole
Yeah.
thing. but then so much of it is changed, so much of it is
Yeah.
evolved. So these would be the top three things, that I would be thinking differently.
Okay. Perfect. That was good. Makes sense. A couple of points I can relate with. I also spend a lot of time color, font, this and that. I'm like, oh man, whatever. It'll
Exactly.
change,
Yeah, yeah, it keeps
and it should.
evolving, Yeah,
It should, right?
it
So,
should,
which is the
exactly.
so Richa, you're the numbers lady, as I and nothing escapes your eyes. You keep on tracking, you keep on optimizing, etc. And that's how it is. So, uh, well, we try, and we all try
Yeah.
every day. That's what it's all about. So, given the whole, dominance of paying people to bring in and the whole acquisition, etc., right? For any brand, spending the money is also pretty critical. What would be your top three advice in terms of acquisition, conversion side of strategies that they should look at in the early stage?
True.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Well, yeah. Yeah. Fair. Mhm. Sure. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Telling 3,000, 4,000. Yeah. 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 The matrix is totally. Yeah. 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 Perfect. Yeah. No, I think makes sense because you like it or you don't like it. There's unit economics, which is always hanging on our heads, right? We always have to look at the numbers. And it's all about how brilliantly we can try and move that as close to as possible and learning every day. Yeah. So Thank you, ladies. I think was very, very good conversation. Getting to know the inside of why and how FeedSmart was born and what you guys are doing. It was definitely a wise choice for me to start the podcast for the year with you both. And because we no, of course, and also because we are associated with you in business, we see how you guys are doing, and how you're maturing, etc. It's very heartening to see. And all the best. I hope 2025 is amazing for both of you, and rooting for your business, and looking forward to having you again in a few months to give like awesome updates to everyone.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.